Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we'll be talking about Boyka Framework, and we'll look into the demo with Boyka Framework where we'll automate web application using this framework. So we'll see like how quickly and easily we can automate the web application using Boyka. So today we have with us Faisal Khatri. Hi Faisal.
Hello, folks.
Yeah. So today we'll be looking into a demo with Boyka Framework, and we'll automate a sample web application with Boyka Framework. So we'll be automating the web application. So let's go to the documentations of the framework and see how we can start with the web automation. So first thing we need to do while automating the web is to configure the Boyka config.json in order to start with the framework. We start with the automation of web application. So we have created a sample project in our last video where we had seen how we can automate API. So we'll use the same project and we'll automate the web flow. So in this, we'll add one more block called UI, and let's copy the timeout options from the document itself. So timeout options is nothing but the different timeouts which is related to Selenium, like implicit wait, explicit wait, page load, and script load timeouts. So these are all common things which you can use in the
So,
UI.
Vasi, can you explain about the timeouts, that the values that you have put in there? Are there in seconds, milliseconds?
These are in seconds. All the values in the timeout are in seconds. So this implicit wait is 10 seconds, explicit is 30 seconds, like that. All the values are set.
So, once we set these values in the configuration here, do we need to explicitly call out that driver.manage.implicit timeout in our configuration classes in the framework itself, or is it like is it sufficient here to just update these values here only?
So this we can update this value here only. Internally, the driver is not directly exposed, so it is internally used by the framework. So most of the things are wrapped in this framework. So you cannot directly access Selenium related classes or methods. So mostly everything is wrapped in this framework. So all these
Okay, so
settings are also wrapped inside.
I just wanted to very much clear on this, like when we use explicit wait. So initially, in using raw Selenium, what we do is we define a instantiator method called, or a class called WebDriverWait, and then based on the instantiation, we pass on the driver values inside it, and then I call on the explicit condition. So in
Mm.
that case, when you say that you need to like update the explicit wait values here in the configuration, how do we call upon that explicit conditions? It was just I'm thinking aloud on that.
Yes. So that is a pretty a nice topic which you have touched. I'll give more details as we progress in this demo. So I'll talk about that how explicit wait is handled in the framework. It is handled pretty neatly. So you don't need to most of the time you won't require to call any explicit methods explicitly. It is taken care in the framework itself. So I'll show you how it is done. Let's first progress with the other settings. And when we come to the automation part, I will talk more about how the explicit weights are working in this framework.
Cool, cool. Thanks.
So other config is related to logging. So that this logging, I don't think it is required for web. It is mostly required for mobile. Another is screenshots. So we need to have screenshots enabled. So what it will do, it will take the screenshots whenever we want to. So there is a separate method which we can call to take the screenshots. And when we call that method, it will check whether this is enabled or not. So then only it will take the screenshot. Otherwise, it will not take the screenshot. So it is good when if you are explicitly disabling the screenshots. Even if you call the method take screenshot, it will not take the screenshot. And there's different settings related to screenshots is uh, mentioned over here, where we specify the path where the screenshots will be saved, the extension of the file of the screenshot, and the prefix of the screenshot. That this you can configure as per your requirement.
So this prefix and the extension refers to the file names. The
Yes.
file name will be having an extension .jpeg. The
Hmm.
prefix of that file should be scr underscore whatever the value that is
Yeah.
being taken up next.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Now, if I let's go with the local Chrome browser. So as you can see, it is very concise config. Just need to give browser name and it will do rest of the things. So first we'll create web object. Now this is a key for this particular configuration. So this can be anything. Okay. I can just say like a test probe, or you can give your name also. That is also fine. That is not a problem earlier. So it will say that the browser name should be Chrome. So it will pick up the local Chrome browser and it will run your test on that. You can also go through different configurations available. So you can go to the configuration guide and see what are the configurations you can use. So you can use protocols, which is nothing but like HTTP or HTTPS, which one we are using. Host and port are related to the when you run your test against any cloud or drivers like a Selenium grid or a cloud. That time will be required. So we'll come to
Okay,
this
so
different settings later. So, and there are two configurations over here, which is very important to note that we can run the test in the headless browser mode, or you can also enable highlighting of elements when it is interacting with the elements. So at that time, whenever the test runs, it will highlight in red when it is clicking or doing interactions with that element, or it will highlight it in green when it is reading something from that element. So this is by default enabled. You can explicitly turn it off by passing it false.
this is by default enabled, you meant to say.
Yes.
Okay. And one more thing I wanted to know, like when you said about the browser name that you put in the config, that was the whole world was updated in capitals like CHROME. So is it
Mm.
necessary to put the values in capital, or is it like case sensitive? Mm, Just wanted to know a bit more about it.
Yeah, it is required to be in capital because internally it is using all these values available.
Okay.
So internally it is mapping to some, so it should be ideally be in capital letter.
Okay, so this Boyka framework actually supports all the latest the modern frameworks like Chrome,
Yes,
Edge, Firefox, and Safari as well.
yes.
Like,
Earlier it used
okay,
to support Opera also, but Opera has been not. It is not. It is not in use right now. So we have removed the support for Opera.
okay.
Let's come to this configuration. So by for our local test, this configuration is looks good to me. We can go to the sample site which we are automating. So in this demo, we are using Lambda test Selenium Playground. So we'll automate this particular form, and we'll see like how we can automate this form using Boyka. So we'll copy this URL and we'll create a test. First, we'll create a page object. So we'll
So are
create
we
a
going to use page object model here,
yes.
Vasit?
You'll be using page object where we'll be storing all the locators, and we'll write the test using those locators. So first we'll define a pages package, and inside that I will be writing input form page. So this will create a package for pages, and it will be creating an input form page. So here I'll be using like it will be like a Pojo class where we'll be defining all the elements inside of this class as a Pojo class. So let's first declare data annotation, and we'll declare all the fields as private, private. And we'll be using locator class over here. So locator
So
is from
this locator class is basically from the Boyka framework.
yes.
Okay.
So this locator is custom to Boyka framework, and we can use this to build the locators. So it is name equal to locator build locator dot build. So here we can say for which platform we are using this locator. So it is for web, and we'll pass the locator uh, by locator for this. So this is having name ID. We will use by dot ID. It's pretty straightforward in that sense. Here you can also use parent-child relation also. So for example, here we can see that Selenium form is the parent. Just to give an example how we can define a parent-child relation. I'll create another locator, and here we can specify the parent. Parent is form container. So this way we can mention that this form container is the parent of this name element. Now like that we can define all the elements.
And how does that help, like defining a parent-child relation? How does that help the test? Does it like with respect to this parent-child relation, do we have the speed and the test been optimized in a sense?
Yes, this concept is similar to the raw selenium which we are using earlier. What it happens is, if you find this name locator, name element, it will find using this locator under this sorted scope. So it will try to find first the form container, and inside the form container only it will try to find the element with the ID name.
Okay, so
So
ideally
that
it will not
way,
search
yeah,
out throughout
that
the
way,
page.
yes, it will not
Okay,
scan the whole page. It will just scan a small area in that page, and it will try to find the element. That way,
okay,
our test execution will be much faster.
okay. Yeah.
But this thing will not work when you are using XPath. So you need to remember that XPath will always scan the whole page DOM.
Yeah. Even if you use the parent-child relation
In that,
or
mostly I think it is relative locator and absolute locator. Mostly that
absolute.
it will not scan the whole thing. So it is like reduce the speed.
Okay.
This is the email field. So this email is having the ID as input email.
Any specific reason you use the tag name directly there?
I think there is only one button on this page.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
there are different buttons. Use the parent for everything.
So I think this is the best example where we can mention about the parent-child relation here.
Yes,
So if there are
because there
multiple
are
buttons,
different buttons on this page, but it will select only that button which is the child of this particular container.
that's quite good. Yeah, I learned a new trick here. Thanks.
So now we'll create a test class, web test. We don't want it in the pages, so we'll just drag it on. Mm,
So just wanted to know, like in page object, what we do is when we create the page object class, we perform some kind of actions as well. So where are we going to perform the actions here, in the test or in the page object class?
So we'll do that in the test only initially. Then we
Okay.
can we can put it in a separate action class also, or you can put it in the same page object also. That is also fine. It depends on the user to user. Like when if I give my example, I normally create a separate action class. I don't increase the size of the page object. I keep the page object very
Can we go
simple.
with this action class only here? Because that would be good to know how you create that action class.
Yes. So let's create another package called actions, and I will create a new class called input from actions. So we'll create a method called void fill form. Now we need to have access to this page object. So what we will do is I'll create a static instance field input from page. There is nothing which we need to explicitly initialize here, so we'll directly use input from page, and we'll create a static method with some which will return this input page and give it a name as input from page, which will return this static instance. So now in our method in the actions class, first what we will do we need to navigate to that page first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I'll be using a method called, let's take an example from the documentation itself. That will be easier. See, so now we have already created the page object. Now, if we refer to the documentation, we are on the right track. We have already defined this page object. We are now on the action class. So over here, we need to navigate to the page. For navigation, we'll be using the navigate method. So this navigate methods come from the navigate actions class. So we'll use navigate. It will ask to static input. Navigate or to. They will give the URL over here. This will navigate to our test website. Next step we need to do is to start putting the values in. So it's better to use any faker library. We will use data faker. It is pretty easy and straightforward to just dump in some dumb data. They are
Okay,
formed
and
by
it
XML.
also helps like if you want to run the same test multiple times, you don't have to update the data every time there. So data faker will automatically take care of passing on the correct data at the runtime in your different test.
Create an instance. Okay. Now we want to enter the text. So for entering text, there is a method called on text box.
This is from the Boyka framework.
Yes, this is from Boyka Framework. In this, we will pass the locator. The for locator,
Mhm.
we will be using input page object, input form page method. Means import static import dot name get name dot enter text. Here we will be using faker library dot name full name. It will enter the any random full name in the input field. For all these fields, we will be using like similar methods. So, on text box input form dot email
Email.
dot enter text faker dot email dot email.
So, no, no.
It is
At
internet
internet
internet email address,
email address.
no password. On you can see like how readable and intuitive it is to write any sections for this particular framework.
Yes, yes.
Not
It's
password.
exciting as well.
It is pretty easy for any non-technical team member also to understand exactly what is happening in this test case.
Correct.
The country is a drop down, so we will
Yep.
use on drop down. So this will use all the drop down related methods.
Okay.
Country. Select button. Let's see all the text in it. So this filter country name.
But in that case, if you use faker here, that drop-down value should match with the values provided in the faker library. If it doesn't match, then our test will fail. So for that
Mostly
purpose, let's take.
all the countries are there.
Okay, like let's try with that. Once we run the test, and if anything fails, then we can set
It's
a
better
particular
that we
country
can
random.
directly use India only.
Yeah, that works as well.
India. We don't need to try anything new.
So once you define your locators, it becomes quite easy to just fill in the form there or fill in the blanks
Yes.
there. And
Yes.
this is not particularly like with respect to this form, but it any page that you take for automation, I guess.
Yes. It can be done for
So
any page.
okay, so ideally the important thing is to locate the web elements accordingly on the web page, and once you have located that thing, you can just call on the different methods, wrapper methods ideally from the
Yes.
Boyka framework, and put on and fill in the blanks there to perform different interactions with the web page.
Yes. Now to click on the element, now we have filled the complete form. Now we need to click on the button. So for that there is a method called with mouse, because we will be using mouse over here.
Okay,
So and we'll be passing the locator for that submit button. And you want to just click on it. Click.
okay.
That's it. Now, so
Now,
af-
here one thing I would like to mention here is, can you go back to the editor, please? Here you have used on line number 12, final faker equal to new faker. Since we are not using this faker in any other method, we just have one fill form method. Can we take it inside that method itself instead
yes,
of creating a private modifier there and then using it?
yes, you can do that. In fact, we can make this method as static. Don't
Okay.
want anything. This way to differentiate everything. Because we are navigating, we are filling in the form, and we are clicking on the submit button.
Yep.
Now let's write a test quickly just to execute
Mhm.
it. So we'll write test. Probably, test web. So we are using input options like fill form. It's pretty straightforward, but it will not work directly. We need to
Mhm.
first create the driver. So first we'll create before before test. We provide setup test. So in that we have to use create driver. Let's see the documentation also. So if we go to the test example, we are creating the driver over there. So there is a method create driver, and it will take in the two parameters. First is the platform. We are running on web, so we'll pass it the platform type as web. Second, it will take the config key. So here config key we have used is test probe. So it will tell this method that we need to run our test on this particular configuration. Now, once this is created, we need to also clean up the session. So we'll use after test, and we put tear down. Yes. Then in that we'll call the method close driver. Now, for example, if, at the end of this test, I need to take the screenshots also. So for that, on window, this is another class, another method on window, and we'll tell this method to take the screenshot. So it will just capture the screenshot at the end of the test.
So that would be the last page on which the before closing
Yes,
the browser, it will take a screenshot and then close the browser. So
yes.
it won't take a screenshot on every step, right?
If
It
you
will
want
take
to
the
take the screenshot on every step, you need to call it explicitly wherever you want to call.
oh,
So
okay,
it does
got it.
not make sense to call after filling each field. So
Yep.
it's better to call it after each page.
So I think
When
before clicking on the submit button, I think we can call a screenshot method here. So we
mm,
know what our methods are filled in there, what all text are filled in on the forms.
so we can
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
Mm. Now let's execute this test case and see how it works. Click on this run button, click on test. It is initializing the driver, starting the browser. failed. Let's see. Okay. So in our page object, we have missed one thing. So for every locator, we need to give an easy to understand name. So name is the field which we need to use and give a readable name for each element. So this name is used internally while logging. So for
Okay.
logging, it is required to give some meaningful name. So just let's quickly do that.
And this is a mandatory thing to mention here.
Yes. If we miss to give this name, our test will not run.
Okay.
This is a mandatory thing.
So all the name can be same, or we need to like define different names for different fields.
Yeah. It's better to give a different, proper, meaningful name for yourself. If it will be helpful in your debugging.
Okay.
Yes. So if you give all the same name, it will be very confusing for you to debug later
Ah,
on.
ah.
Now let's again execute the test. Now
Yep.
it should execute properly. It is navigating. So by default, it is running in the headless mode. So let's disable headless. Headless. Now you will be able to see the test running.
Okay. You mentioned about the highlight element part
Yes. So highlight also I
earlier.
have by default set it to false only
Mhm.
because normally we will run our test on pipeline. So I don't think it makes any sense to enable highlighting.
Okay. So by default, highlight is set to false.
Yes. And headless
Okay.
is set to true by default. Now,
Okay.
one thing I will come back on this topic of explicit regs. So how
Hmm.
it is handled in the framework is when you are interacting with the element, by default, it will wait for the element to be clickable. For example, if I
Oh,
am entering text on the element, or I am clicking on element or doing drop down event on the element, at that time it will wait for the element to be clickable. So automatically inside in the framework itself, I have handled this thing.
so the explicit word is internally handled
Yes.
for the respective elements whenever it tries to interact with those kind of actions that you need to perform.
Yes. So if, for example, you want to get any attributes from the element, for example, get text or get any attribute, at that time it will wait until the element is visible. It will not wait until clickable. It will wait if the
Okay.
element is visible, then it
Hmm.
will get the desired values and it will return. But if you are interacting with the element, then it will wait until the element is clickable.
So in case of on drop down, what happens there?
There also it will wait until clickable.
Okay, so it will click on that respective drop down. The drop down will open and the element will get selected, and then
No,
respective thing.
internally I am using the select class from Selenium. So now
Okay.
how that class behavior is that it will not click on the drop down. It will internally query the drop down and it will select the value depending on the method we are calling. Like for example, select by text
Hmm.
or select by value or select by ID.
Okay, got it.
Let's execute this again. So now you can see that the elements are getting highlighted,
Yep.
but this pop-up is coming in.
Can you run the test again? I guess it should work again. That failed due to that pop up, I guess.
Yes.
Mhm.
So if you notice when you are running in the headless mode, that pop-up is not coming. But if you are running without headless, then this pop-up is coming.
There might be some case there.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned about the screenshot. Can we show where's the screenshot been saved so the test are run?
So there is a folder created here, screenshots. So you can see that the file name is having the date and time attached to that file name. The date is 24 to 2023 and the time also is attached to that. If you see, this is the screenshot which is taken before clicking on the submit button.
Okay.
See, the previous test which failed because of this pop-up.
Mhm.
This
And also,
is
we took one screenshot before closing the driver. So, is it the same screenshot or
uh,
was that?
I have removed that from the test actually.
Okay,
I
okay,
have
okay,
moved
okay,
that
no worries.
into this action class.
Okay. Um, I think we should move towards assertions now. I think without assertions, the test is not complete. So,
Hmm.
we have already filled up the form. Let's
Yeah,
move further with the
yeah. So first, let's uh,
do it
fill this
manually then.
form. Yeah, do it manually and see what message we get in the next page. So I'll enter the dummy value here. Let's go to John. We are getting this message. Let's find the locator for this message. This is the P locator.
It's at a P tag there, and above it
It
there should
is
be
a sibling for select form.
okay.
So you create a CSS selector for this because there is no proper ID for this. Or
Yep.
better, we can select a class also. In this case, success message. That
Success hyphen
also,
message.
yeah, that also will work. So we'll do like a p dot success message. We are getting that message.
Hmm.
So we'll update the page object and add a new field for success message. Now the assertions are we can directly call the inline methods for assertions. For example, uh, we want to verify the message from that element. So we'll do on element. On element, which is the element of success message. And we'll do verify text. And we'll do that is equal to, then let's get the message from the page. Then we'll assert that the message we got here is equal to the message to that element.
Hmm.
So let's execute again. So the test passed, even though that there was a pop-up message in between, but the tests were able to pass. So our assertions were also passed. We can
So,
verify that this message is failing or not. We will remove the dot and we'll execute again. So this will make sure that the tests are, this assertion method is working fine.
hmm.
So we can see that this is the expected message, but we are getting the message with the full stop.
There's a difference of dot.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, a bit of refactoring, Vasik, I would suggest. Like, it's just a suggestion.
Hmm.
Since you have already created one class for actions, I guess if we can put that statement, the verification statement, in another method and call it in the test, that would actually be more readable. What do you think?
Yeah, we can do that. This framework is completely flexible. You can bold it as you like. So you can even put this method in the web test also. But let's put it in a different method. Then create
Maybe
public
like
static.
verify success message or something.
Yes. Verify success message. Then in this we will put this static void and call this message method in the test.
I need to update the dot to make
Yes.
the test
So
pass.
in without if you don't want to repeat the things, so you just do static input over. So now like fill form and verify successfully. Let's execute this again. Then we'll correct these things.
Yep.
We can handle this pop-up also. Like we are not sure exactly when this pop-up is coming, but if we are able to identify, then we can handle that. So this time this pop-up did not came, and we were able to verify it as well.
Okay. This is good actually. It took 8 seconds, 422 milliseconds to run the test completely. For the whole suite, it took 11 seconds, 377 milliseconds. That I can see in the bottom bar.
Yeah. So
Also, do you? I saw in one of the one of your website documentation that you also capture the logs.
yes,
Can you show
yes.
them, please?
So these logs are captured in the folder logs. You can see that there is a logs folder created. So this main log will contain all the events which took place. So this execute script, which you can see here, it is for highlighting and unhighlighting the element. So if we
Mhm.
disable the highlighting thing, this thing will get removed. We'll see like the logs pretty clearly. So if you see like
Okay.
whenever I'm entering the text, there is entering text so and so into the element name. So the names which we have given to the locators, that name is being used in the logs.
Okay.
So this will help the developers also to replicate the issues pretty easily. If you just give the log file to them, they will be able to identify just by following the steps. They will be able to identify the issues also. So this logs
Mhm.
also pretty helpful. There are other logs as well. Where if there is any errors, the error logs will be captured here, and these all are the complete logs, like all the tracing and everything. So
Okay.
plenty of logging is there. We can optimize the logging also later on. So this is how we can automate the web application.
So, what is the difference between the main log file and the all log file?
So main log file contains only the informative logs, and the all logs will contain the debug log and the tracing log as well. So that
Okay.
is
Okay.
helpful for the Boyka framework team. In case if there is any issue in the framework, you can provide
Mhm.
us this log file, all log file, and we will be able to try to see like what went wrong in the framework.
That's actually nice. So, what is the current release version for Boyka framework that is available?
Yeah, Boyka framework is 0.13, which is available. Uh,
Okay.
So this version contains all the four platforms, so you can automate all the four platforms. So in the coming videos, we will see like how to automate Android and iOS applications as well.
Okay.
Mostly, this is it for the web demo.
It was a it was a very detailed explanation with all the respective methods and the classes that we use from that can be reused in terms of web automation for automating a website, and it was quite helpful. Vasik, I hope we can have more such sessions around the different features of the Boyka framework in the upcoming videos as well.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah. So if you have noticed like how simple it is, simple like it took hardly any time for us to write the test.
Yeah. So initially, the time that we that went, more efforts were spent on locating the elements actually,
Yes.
and after that, when it came to like doing the scripting for the respective test, it was quite easy. Like we just need to write down the page object classes and accordingly perform some kind of interactions on the respective elements that we have located, and from that we can write the test, and it was quite easy. Like I like the way you went ahead and then completed all the tests in a real quick. It's
So
awesome.
you can visualize this with a real-time project. If a new project comes, you don't need to write any boilerplate code. You don't need any
Yeah.
pre-built organizational specific frameworks. Just use the Boyka framework and start writing the test as soon as you get the product.
Yeah, so as per my experience, whenever I've been into a project, I had to spend a lot of time like defining the drivers, creating the driver manager classes for respective drivers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and then respective resolution settings and performing all the different configuration settings as well. And then respective session needs to be handled for parallel runs as well. So all these things actually eats up the time with respect to the configuration and setting up the framework or setting up the different entry criteria for automation scripting. So I think this all time can be saved by using a simple config file from Boyka framework and accordingly locating the elements and then writing your test.
Yeah. we look into like different scenarios in the upcoming videos. Like for example, we will also see how to run this web test on browser stack or Lambda test and on Selenium grade. Like that, we can see different things in the upcoming videos, and we'll also see how to automate Android and iOS applications. So if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel so you can get notified whenever we come up with the new videos and different tips and tricks on the channel. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Thank you.